Hello, ladies and gentlemen, loyal Imperial citizens and rebel scum alike. Welcome to another Liam Aiden gameplay video. Back with more Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes today. Now, at the time of recording this video, we are in the midst of another GAC, and as you can see here, it is 5v5, but we do know Capital Games announced that they are going to be bringing back the 3v3 Grand Arena challenges shortly. So I thought, what better time than right now to take a look at some possible 3v3 combinations you might want to think about using for defense and offense in the next 3v3 Grand Arena Championship. Now, I should point out here that what I've tried to do, so first of all, I sourced some of these from guild members, so thank you so much for guild members that did offer up team suggestions. I'll try and mention everyone as we go through particular teams that people suggested. And what I've tried to do is steer clear of sort of really maybe some really obvious teams that everybody's using. So you're not going to see Gas in here, and you're not going to see any Darth Revan either. Maybe some of these are a little more unusual or a little more creative. I also haven't included any Galactic Legends, and you'll also see as we go through, as I said, a lot of these suggestions are actually teams that other people suggested, so I don't necessarily have the characters up at appropriate gear levels or all their abilities unlocked, so please don't pay attention to the gear levels that I've got. Today we're just going to have a quick look at 5 suggested defensive teams for 3v3 and 5 suggested offensive teams for Grand Arena for 3v3, and just talk a little bit about how they might work. Let's go take a look right now. Okay, here we go. So going to go through the defensive lineup first. Going to go through these relatively quickly so we can just get a feel for all of the teams as efficiently as possible. So first up, we have a Jedi defensive team. Now, I like this team because it's using some Jedi that you may not necessarily have a home for. I think you're going to have a home for each of these 3 tunes on your 5v5 squads, but you may not necessarily have a home for them when it comes to 3v3. So it's Bastila Shan, General Kenobi, and Ezra Bridger. Now, this lineup was recommended to me by guild member D-Wiz, so shout out to D-Wiz, thank you for that. And he does mention that you can use any Jedi attacker in that 3rd spot that they've got Ezra in right now. The key here is the Bastila Shan lead. Now let's take a look at this. Now this is just an awesome lead anyway. At the start of the battle, Jedi allies gain 15% turn meter, protection up 200%, and Jedi tanks taunt for 1 turn. While Jedi allies have protection up, they have 150% tenacity and deal 35% more damage. So look at this lineup that we've got here, right? We've got a leader in Bastila Shan, we've got that tank in General Kenobi, and then we've got the attacker in Ezra Bridger. So because of this leadership ability, Kenobi is going to start with that taunt up, and Ezra Bridger is going to be doing extra damage. And not to mention, of course, Bastila Shan can dispel debuffs and send people into attack. She can also cleanse buffs on the other team members. I think this is a very powerful squad because you've got your leader, your tank, and the attacker. Thanks to D-Wiz for this one. Next, we move over to the dark side. Separatists, to be accurate. This lineup, thanks to guild member Cage. Thank you for that. Shout out to him. So this is Dooku, Ventress, and Night Sister Zombie. Again, I like this because it's a simple setup. You've got your leader Dooku, who's going to go into stealth at the beginning. You've got Saj Ventress dealing that attack, and then you've got your zombie there with the taunt. Now the zombie is going to keep absorbing the attack from the enemy and keep reviving as long as Asajj is still there. So I think you're going to want to invest gear in Dooku and Ventress to make this work. Now let's take a quick look at Nefarious Connections as Dooku's leadership ability. So Separatist allies have 35% counter chance and gain 50% tenacity the first time they're stunned or dazed. Whenever an enemy falls below 100% health, they inflict tenacity down and healing immunity for 2 turns on themselves, which can't be evaded or resisted, and all Separatist allies gain 10% offense up. Now this is a pretty awesome leadership ability. I think it's often overlooked. There are some amazing leaders obviously in the Separatist lineup there, but I think this is a really great use for it. I do think you're going to want to invest in gear on both Dooku and Ventress in order to make this work, and I think they're also going to want to be pretty speedy too. You're going to be wanting to get those attacks out there as quickly as possible, and you really do need to keep Ventress alive so that the zombie can keep respawning and keep absorbing the damage from the enemy. But I can see this being a really annoying lineup on defense and really stealing a lot of banners from the enemy. Sticking with the dark side, this is another recommendation I got from guild member Cage. Vader with Mission and Big Z, Zalbar right there. I think this is a really creative use of these tunes. Mission and Zalbar work really well together, and I see them popping up on a lot of different squads and a lot of different combinations in Grand Arena. I've never seen them with Vader before, but I really like the idea of this. So there's a theme here, right? You're often getting your leader and your attacker. In this case, they happen to be the same with Vader. You got someone else who's kind of there for support. In this case, it's Mission, and again, she's going to go into stealth to hide, and then you've got your tank. So Cage does mention that you really need a pretty tanky Big Z. Your Zalbar needs to be pretty tanky, and you're going to want your speed up on Vader for this one. You want to have a fast Vader, and basically the way this is going to work is Zalbar is going to absorb all the damage, Mission is going to stay cloaked, and you're going to be relying on the synergy there for them to be able to cleanse each other and pass over some turn meter, and then really you're just going to want Vader to get Merciless Massacre up and just cut through the enemy. That's how this team is going to work. I really like it, and I think obviously I need to invest in Mission and Big Z, but I think I'm going to give this one a shot. I like it a lot. Talk about not having invested in tunes. You can easily tell which one of these ideas didn't come from me. Newt here, I haven't even unlocked, thrown nothing on him, haven't even unlocked his leadership ability. So this was another Cage suggestion here. Everyone is basically zero gear on this squad for me at the moment. Newt Gunray lead, Night Sister Acolyte, and Night Sister Zombie. Now obviously this is the second appearance of Zombie here, so there is going to be a little bit of overlap on some of these teams. You won't necessarily be able to run all of them at the same time, but this again I think is another creative use, tunes you wouldn't necessarily see together, but I can see this being really annoying. So both Newt and the Acolyte are going to go into stealth. Newt's going to be throwing out that extortion, Acolyte's going to be dealing some damage, and Night Sister Zombie is just going to be absorbing the attacks from the enemy, probably the only character they can actually target for most of the time, and as long as Acolyte's still there, she is just going to keep reviving. I have never seen this before. I've never used it, obviously, as you can see, my lack of investment, and I've also never seen it, but I could see this being staggeringly annoying. I don't necessarily know that it would hold a territory for you, but I think you could steal a lot of banners from your opponent here. I'm really intrigued by this one. I want to give it a shot. And now my final defensive recommendation, finally a team I have actually invested in here. So it's another Jedi squad, Qui-Gon Jinn lead with Barriss Offee and Mace Windu. Now if you're going to run this team, I think you are going to want to have that Omicron on Qui-Gon there. It is still really a viable Omicron, and I think you're also going to want to put the Zeta on Barriss Offee. Let's take a quick look at Qui-Gon's leadership ability with this Omicron expansion here. So what you get is all Jedi allies have 30 speed. That's pretty awesome. They gain offense equal to 3 times their speed and gain foresight for 2 turns at the start of each encounter and whenever any unit is defeated. That is a pretty cool leadership ability just as it is, but then in Grand Arena, at the start of the battle, if there's no Galactic Legends and all allies are Jedi, all other allies instead gain offense equal to 30 times their speed, doubled when they have foresight, and can't be defeated while Qui-Gon Jinn is active. Qui-Gon can't gain damage immunity or stealth, and he can't be revived. When Qui-Gon Jinn is defeated, all other allies gain 100% health and protection and gain 400% of Qui-Gon Jinn's offense for 2 turns. Now if you combine that with Mace Windu's attacking ability and the Zeta on Barriss Offee, which means that she is automatically healing the weakest ally every time she takes a turn, this can really be a squad that people underestimate in Grand Arena. I've had a lot of success with a slightly expanded version of this lineup in 5v5. It's held territories for me, so I am very excited to see how this does in 3v3, and I think even at these relatively low gear levels, this team still has utility. So those are your 5 suggestions for 3v3 defense. Hopefully we've got enough time before they start the next 3v3 Grand Arena for you to build up some of those teams if you haven't got them where you need to be already. Obviously I don't. Now we're going to take a look at some offensive suggestions. Again, our first suggestion here is courtesy of guild member D-Wiz. Now what he suggested doing, actually the first 2 teams are his, and what he suggested doing is basically taking a stalwart of 5v5 GAC offense, that's your CLS team, and splitting it in 2. And this is the first iteration here. So you're taking CLS, 3PO, and then Chupio, 3POC, whatever you want to call him, 3PO Chewie. So that's the first breakup that you're doing. This is the first team. I really like this idea here. I think you're going to want to have a pretty fast, I mean, you want to have a fast CLS anyway. My CLS is not particularly fast. I need to really invest in him. You're going to want a pretty fast CLS here, and a fast 3PO2, I think. You want to get stealth up on him, and then what you're really relying on is 3PO and Chupio to be handing out those debuffs and retaliatory attacks while Luke does the damage. That's team number 1. Team number 2, you're taking the 2 leftover members from your CLS squad, Han and Chewie, and then I really like this because you're throwing in Qi'ra. Qi'ra, a character that you, as you can see, I don't have her powered up. You may not necessarily have her powered up. I've actually only got her on 4 stars. So one of these characters, a scoundrel character you might not be using. I don't even have her leadership ability unlocked, but it's giving extra critical chance and protection and a specific attacker and tank debuffs as well. She is going to have that synergy with Han and Chewie because they do have the scoundrel tag. So I think this is a really good way to split up your CLS team and get 2 pretty good offensive teams, kind of 2 for the price of 1. All you need to do is power up 1 extra scoundrel, and then you've got this extra team here with Chewie, Han, and Qi'ra, and they're going to get those buffs from Kira's lead. I think this is going to be a really potent offensive team. Thanks again to D-Wiz for that suggestion. Team number 3's got us headed over to the dark side for something of a classic here. So this is probably a team that you're kind of already using here, and that is Palpatine, Papa Palpatine, and Vader. So they're just a fantastic combination. You need that Palpatine lead in order to really get the best out of Vader, because you're getting that extra turn meter so he can open up with the AoE, then immediately dive into Merciless Massacre. What I'm suggesting here is that you throw in Mara Jade in that 3rd slot there, just to make this even more potent. Mara Jade obviously is going to be getting those counter attacks from Emperor Palpatine when she attacks. She's just generally got great synergy with Palpatine as the Emperor's hand, and makes a really great addition to this squad. Now the important thing here is Mara Jade is actually farmable now. She's been farmable for a little while. I've not farmed her. I've only got her up at 3 stars, therefore only on gear level 11, and she is still able to really deal some decent damage and enhance this squad. So the important thing to note here is even at low star and gear level, Mara Jade is viable, and this is a potent offensive team. Sticking with the dark side, with the Empire, in fact, we move into Imperial Trooper territory. Now, Mara Jade, a character I'm saying she has viability even at low star and gear level. Aiden Versio is probably the poster child in my mind right now for characters in GAC you can use at low star and low gear and still come out on top. Honestly, with this Omicron ability in place, Aiden Versio is just an awesome leader for Imperial Troopers. Now, I've paired her here with Stormtrooper for the tankiness and Snow Trooper for the AoE, but you could use any troopers. Shore Trooper, Range Trooper be a great option, Death Trooper. They're all excellent. Any Imperial Trooper combo can work here. Now, our leadership ability, Imperial Troopers get 35% critical chance, 35% offense, and plus 35 speed. That's a huge speed jump, and crucially, you're looking for Imperial Troopers without the leader tag and without the droid tag, because then they get a bunch of extra buffs. But then specifically in Grand Arena at the start of the battle, if no other allies have the leader tag, Imperial Trooper allies also gain 35% max health and protection whenever an enemy attacks out of turn. You're recovering 20% health and getting 10% turn meter. That is huge, and it means there's massive survivability for this team even at the lower gear levels. And of course, if you have all of Aiden Versio's abilities powered up, she's also going to resurrect if she is the first character that's killed, or rather if she's killed, she still has trooper allies on the board. So even if you wanted to take your trooper allies up higher into Relic, in fact, especially if you keep Versio at a low gear level, this team is still viable. A really great cheap option, I think. And our final 3v3 offensive suggestion here in the form of some Sith. Now this team, I think, what inspired me for this was really anyone out there who's going after Sith Eternal, as I did. What you end up with is a bunch of Sith at relic levels that you don't necessarily have a use for. One of the big criticisms with Sith Eternal, of course, is that his farming guide, the characters you need to unlock in order to unlock Sith Eternal, they don't give you the best team to then use with Sith Eternal. So unlike Master Kenobi or Master Luke Skywalker, where you get awesome teams that you can immediately just slot that Galactic Legend into, with Sith Eternal you don't. You have to farm a separate team, so it's a little bit annoying. But what you do end up with are a bunch of Sith that I think you can make great use of, especially in 3v3 with some of these spin-off teams. So here I'm suggesting Maul, Sidious, and then I'm throwing in Marjada here, just because, again, he's obviously someone that I had to power up to get Sith Eternal. You will too if you're after that. Got to take him up to Relic 7. But you could use any Sith in here, really. I think Savage Opress would be a great option here. Sith Assassin, even Dooku. You could really use any Sith here in this lineup in order to make it work. Now I've put Darth Maul in the leadership slot here, and that's for his Dancing Shadows leadership ability, which gives Sith allies 20% evasion and 20% turn meter whenever they evade or are critically hit. Now Sidious is already a pretty dodgy character. He does a lot of evasion, so that's just going to increase the potency of his attacks. And remember, if you've got that Zeta on him, when he opens up with his AoE, he gets offense up anyway. This team can really deal some surprising amounts of damage, and again, I think it would be viable even at lower levels, but I think it's especially viable if you are farming Sith Eternal and you just kind of end up with spare Sith lying around. This is a great use for them. Well, there you go. Those are my 5 suggestions for 3v3 defense and 3v3 offense teams. Hopefully there were some interesting combinations in there, some teams that maybe you hadn't come across before or weren't thinking about farming, and maybe they'll just give you some other options as you prepare for our first 3v3 Grand Arena since they made those huge changes and I think improvements to the way Grand Arena works. Again, thank you so much to guild members D-Wiz and Cage for their suggestions. Really do appreciate it. But what do you think? I would love to know any suggestions or comments you have about some good defensive or offensive 3v3 teams, either that you have used in the past or that you're going to be using, you plan to use, or maybe you're just working on them for future 3v3 Grand Arenas. Let me know down below. Always love to hear your thoughts and comments. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me today. If you have found this video informative or entertaining in any way, please consider giving it a like, a thumbs up down below. I really do appreciate it, and it helps out the channel. That is all from me today. While you're here, why not consider subscribing to Liam Aiden Gameplay? I drop new gameplay videos for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes and Marvel Strike Force every week, and I would love to have you along for the ride. That's all from me today. I'll see you in the next one. In the meantime, look after each other. And remember, the Force will be with you. Always.